Instagram, we're just waiting for Facebook. Hey, Facebook. Hi, everybody. It's Elektra. I told you I would be back. Today, we're going to talk about all things related to the organization of a successful portfolio. So, my name is Elektra Yao. I am the artist visa lawyer. I talk about all things related to the O1 visa, the artist visa, EB1A, and EB2. I represent clients that are artists and creatives exclusively, and we're located here in the heart of New York City. So, let's talk today about organization of the portfolio. And I feel like this is something that is so not discussed at all, just because a lot of the times it's not necessarily the focus of a lot of people or a lot of attorneys, the organization of the portfolio. So it goes without speaking that you need to include a portfolio within your petition, right? And even that word, like, what does that even mean? For a visual artist, it makes a lot of sense what a portfolio is. It's usually the collective inclusion of the best work that you have done to showcase to a potential employer. That is not what we're doing with the portfolios in O1s. With portfolios in our O1s, we're focusing on a holistic understanding of the creative and artistic work that you have done. Or the creative and artistic work that we believe is strong enough to be included within the petition. That might include everything, that might include a small part, that might include different aspects of your career. It really just depends on the case and how we're arguing the case. Now, the portfolio, it's kind of like a big word because it says something, again, that doesn't really make sense, in the sense that it doesn't make sense because we don't really have a definition for what this word means, and we don't really have guidelines on the construction of what a portfolio is. I mean, that's just the truth of the matter. There's no guidelines within the law, at least. Now, this is where an attorney comes into play. Not only an attorney, but a licensed, experienced attorney with O1s to be able to properly guide you in the curation of the portfolio. Because a lot of the times clients will expect the attorney to do the portfolio, and that's an unreasonable expectation. And I'll tell you why it's an unreasonable expectation. Because there's so many different forms of evidence that I and other attorneys do not have access to, just by the sheer fact that I am not you. I don't have access to your emails. I don't have access to your DMs. I don't have access to your text messages, WhatsApp messages, your work notes, your HR documents, your onboarding documents, your sketches. I don't have access to any of that information, which is central and critical to a beautiful, fabulous, successful portfolio. So so sometimes clients do have that expectation that I'm just going to be a magician and kind of like be God and create that portfolio. It's just not going to happen, because a portfolio is composed of data. It's composed of information, and each document tells a specific story and has a specific point, and I don't have access to those documents. What I do have access to, and what you do get when you hire a licensed attorney, is you get experience and strategy, right? And in our case, in the case of our law firm, we provide you with an exhaustive, extensive list of different forms of documents that can be included within the portfolio. Now, this is gold, right? You're not necessarily going to get that from other attorneys. This is a very long list. And I always tell clients, listen, not everything is going to apply to you, because forms of evidence that are relevant to a performer is not necessarily going to be relevant to a wine tasting. I mean, it's just not, right? Because of the nature of the work, it's different. But because we are representing all different types of artists and creatives, we do include an exhaustive list, because number one, it's a list based on my experience. I'm not necessarily there creating the piece of artwork, so I might not have that experience that you have as a visual artist, a designer, whatever it is that you do, right? There might be additional forms of evidence that I just don't catch. But like I said, we represent all artists, and that expansiveness allows me to like kind of pick and choose and understand what works for certain professions and what doesn't work for certain professions. So the way a portfolio is constructed for like a graphic designer or a designer in general, it's going to be very different than the portfolio constructed for a performer. Performers are highly scrutinized, so their petitions and portfolios tend to be more robust. Whereas a designer, their petitions are going to look a little bit slimmer because of the nature of the work. So they're going to look different. And in our firm, we provide you with an evidence list, and we also provide you an outline of how the evidence should be organized. So it's not like there isn't you get a bunch of documents and you put them together. I mean, you do get a bunch of documents and you put them together, but it has to have a sense. It has to have an order. It has to follow a specific narrative. And that narrative that is created is based on experience and is based on how I believe the case is more strongly conducted and experienced by the officer. Because imagine this, like this is a blank page, right? You don't know what this blank page means, right? Those of you who are watching, you don't know what this blank page means. And think of this blank page as what the officer is looking at and feeling when he or she is looking at your petition, because they are not lawyers, they're not artists, and they're not expected to be experts in every different artistic discipline, right? You cannot expect a regular Joe or regular Jane to be an expert on UX design and understand the images and the terminology that is included within your portfolio, and to also understand what does upstage and downstage mean, which is terminology for people who work in theater, right? So this blankness that you see is exactly their experience. And that is why organization is key. Organization is very, very important in the O1 world, at least the way I interpret the O1 world to be. As somebody who is a former actor and filmmaker, I studied film in college. I've had my film screen in different film festivals. I worked professionally in film and TV. Having a scientific approach to something that is very chaotic, like arts doesn't have rules, right? There's many different things that can be considered artistic, right? And there's not really a limit to what you can create and what you can do. That is why you need to have structure within the portfolio. That is why you need to have structure within the petition, so that this blank paper is not the experience of the immigration officer when he or she is looking at your petition. So organization is key. So what are the different forms of organization that I believe are critical to a successful petition? So number one, our firm provides clients with an exhaustive list of different forms of evidence. This is known as what we call the O1 visa guidelines within our firm. If you're doing an EB1A with us, it's the EB1A visa, EB1A guidelines. Number two, we provide you with an outline of how the evidence should be organized. That is very important because you're going to have, let's say, 10 different documents on average, let's say 10 different documents on average for a specific artistic achievement. Now, those documents are not all going to have the same weight. A contract is going to have more probative value, for example, than a BTS picture, or a program is going to be more in line with what an officer is looking for, as opposed to a beautiful production picture of you performing on stage. Now, if you only have production pictures, does that mean that you're not going to get approved? No. If you don't have a contract, does that mean that you're not going to get approved? No. It's a totality of the circumstances analysis. They're really looking at the holistic picture. My job as the attorney and your job as the client, the collaborator, is to really exhaust all the different forms of evidence that you can get. And sometimes that requires you to be an investigator. Like, I'm not going to lie, it's going to require you to reach out to people, look back at archived posts, look back at previous things that have been published about you, and investigate, because your job is to make your presentation of your work digestible to somebody that knows nothing about the arts. They should be able to look at your profession as a layman, as a non-expert, as a non-attorney, and be able to understand that you are extraordinary. Now, you might be thinking, but why should I hire an attorney? Well, you need to hire an attorney because you need to have strategy, right? You need to have a narrative. You need to have structure. So a lot of information about the O1 is online. In fact, I give a ton of information about the O1. I'm one of the only people talking about the nuances of the O1. So in this day and age, in 2025, it's not really the attorney gatekeeping information, right? That doesn't exist anymore. It's not like I'm telling you, oh, you can't access the law. No, you could Google it and you can access the law. The value of the attorney is the experience and the strategy and the insider knowledge of what is happening day to day. So for example, if you're not working with a licensed attorney who is experienced in immigration law, and in our case, O1 visas, you're not really going to know about recent developments. So for example, Ayla has just sued the Trump administration. I mean, this just happened today. ALA, which is the organization that governs and manages American immigration law attorneys, has just sued the Trump administration. Now, you're not going to get that information unless you are very, very, very heavily scrutinizing the media. And I don't think it's actually been published in the media yet. I know because I'm a member of ALA and I received the press release and the email and the complaint. I have a copy of the complaint where they're outlining all the issues with regards to the current administration. So the attorney is not the gatekeeper of data, right? That doesn't exist anymore. That's like law in like the 1900s or the 1950s. The lawyer exists for strategy, the lawyer exists for experience, and the lawyer exists to be able to provide that structure and that narrative that only an experienced attorney would have, right? So with our law firm, whether it's an EB1A, an O1A, an O1B, an EB2, we have meetings called portfolio reviews. And this is super unique, guys. It's not like I'm just reviewing your portfolio digitally. We're actually having a meeting and going over your portfolio together. We provide you with title sheets. This is something that my law firm has created. This idea of title sheets, of using titles to separate different artistic achievements. So the organization starts at the beginning. So I'm going to hold this back so that, there's no information about the client that is discernible. But the organization starts at the top. This is the filing checklist. So every case in our law firm that is put together has 3 layers of review. And you can probably see, the dates and the names at the bottom. These are all the layers of review that happen on a given petition. There's 3 to 4 layers of review before anybody goes out the door, right? I like our cases to be very strong. Again, like I've said in many videos, it's 50-50, right? Like I can't make the officer approve the case, but I can create a very, very strong petition that gets cases to have a strong likelihood of approval. No licensed attorney can guarantee an approval. That's malpractice. So if you've got an attorney that's like, you're a slam dunk case, run, right? Because that is a violation of the rule of ethics. But in our firm, organization and structure starts at the top, right? Even once you become a client, you'll see like with all the emails and the meetings, etc. But when a case is ready to be filed, you start with the O1 visa checklist, which is not available to the public. It's something that we have created, that I have created, that every person who touches the case has to go through. And then we have the different parts of the case that are organized according to title sheets, right? So everything is very organized from the beginning of representation to the beginning of working on the portfolio to when the case is filed. And that is the value of working with an attorney. That is really important, I think, especially in this day and age, to understand different trends that are happening, to understand everything that is going on with current immigration law and policy, but also to have structure and strategy. My value as an attorney, and I'll be honest with you, my value as an attorney is my strategy. And my strategy is dictated by my years of experience of working in the field of the arts before becoming an attorney. This is very unique. This is why many O1 lawyers do not have an arts background. And I think what makes our cases especially strong and unique in their narrative and our ability to work on cases that are not cookie cutter cases is this history that I have as an individual, right? Is being able to merge and marry my experience as working as an artist, as a practitioner, as a filmmaker, as an actor, and also being a licensed attorney and understanding the law, and not only understanding immigration law, but understanding the nuances of the law. My favorite attorney and the absolute best lawyer. Thank you, Elektra. Thank you so much for that beautiful comment. I really appreciate your support, and thank you so much for recognizing the hard work that we do. So yeah, my goal is to be honest with you. Like I'll be honest. The law is online. You can go and Google it. The value of the lawyer today is not being able to regurgitate the law to you, right? Anyone can memorize, any dummy can memorize. It's about strategy. And in the case of the O1, it's about organization according to a narrative that must be established at the beginning of representation. Can that narrative change? Absolutely. Why can that narrative change? Because you change. right? I think I'm working on a case where we started off where she was like, yeah, I actually just want to be a photographer and a gaffer. And then over the course of representation, she's like, yeah, I'm actually going to change. I want to be a DP as well. Totally possible. My job is to be able to argue that legally and accommodate that and ensure that once you are approved, you are not violating your status in any way, and that you can be the best that you want to be and that you can be based on the constraints of what was approved for you. So if you were approved as a photographer and you want to do like DP work, they're different fields. Unfortunately, you can't do that. So it's very important to communicate and talk to the attorney at the beginning of representation about what your goals for yourself during your O1 validity period and what you hope to do. So the organization, like I said, starts at the beginning. The organization of the portfolio is key. This is not what you want. You do not want them to feel lost when they're looking at your portfolio. Like I said, I don't do the portfolio because I am not you. I don't have access to your emails, your contracts, your pay stubs, your bank statements, your sketches, your renderings, your HR onboarding documents. I don't have access to that. What I do have access to is strategy, is an outline, is the order in which documents should be organized in. So that is what is really important. Now, it's important to just understand that structure is important. I think my structure is great, but whatever attorney you choose to work with, whether you choose to work with an attorney or not, or do this on your own, you must have structure and organization. Now, this is not to say that all structured cases get approved or all unstructured cases don't get approved. Please understand that just like the arts world, there are exceptions to the rule. There are changes. There are, bad actors that become famous. There are, terrible photographers that become famous. There are great people who will never become famous. It's the same in the O1 world. There's some petitions that are beautiful, so good, don't get approved. Other petitions, so-and-so, that also get approved. So please just be flexible in your approach to the O1, because if you're expecting a slam dunk case, a slam dunk approval, and if you're expecting an attorney to tell you that, that's not the reality of the O1. You have to have a healthy degree of risk, organization, confidence, and trust in your attorney. So thank you so much for watching. I told you guys I would be back today. I will be back on Monday. And on Monday, it will be a treat because for those of you who don't know, I am Ivorian and Italian. So my dad is from Côte d'Ivoire in West Africa, and my mom is from Italy. So I've actually worked in Europe, in France, UK, Italy, and Spain prior to opening up my practice in the US. So I'm actually going to be doing my lives in French and Italian. I think it's important to communicate in the different languages. Not that it matters. It's not that I communicate in French with my clients. I don't think they necessarily want to do that. But I am fluent in French and Italian because of my cultural history and my cultural background. And I will be lives in French and Italian. But if people prefer for me to speak in English, do not worry. I can definitely switch back to English, and I can also do an additional live in English. The lives that I'll be doing in French and Italian will be very basic, about kind of like the ABCs of the O1. But happy to do a more complex live once in English after those lives. If you want me to talk about what to do while you are on your O1, it's not something I talk about often because sometimes clients just get approved and like, I never see them again until the extension. But if you want me to do a live on what you should actually be doing on your O1, like what is your homework as an O1 visa holder before you come back to us, I'm happy to do that as well. So everybody have a great weekend. Try to think about, the things that I'm telling you about, to look at very critically and holistically, and be alert and be excited about this O1 visa journey. It is my favorite visa to work on. It is the visa for me that is synonymous with freedom. I'm a person that likes to explore and to experiment and to take risks in my life. And I can't imagine why an artist would not want to have that freedom to do so. And the O1 is the only visa that allows you to experiment, take risks, and try something new without violating your status. And by experimenting and trying something new, I mean, you're not tied to a single job. All right. Nice seeing everybody again. Thank you so much for the kind words, Raj. And I will see you guys on Monday in French, English, and Italian. Bye, everybody.